All right, Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Auxiliary Constitution, Article 1, the name and members of the organization shall be known as the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary Nonprofit Fraternal Organization that exists with the support of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering and Trainmen is originally acknowledged by the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering and Trainmen in 1887. It shall consist of the National Auxiliary as the local auxiliary holding legal charters members at large and associated members at large. Article 2, the mission statement. The mission statement is organized and serve the interests and welfare of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliaries and railroad families, successfully Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen, Engineers and Trainmen, and the organization International Brotherhood of Teamster Rail Conference and war members and their families throughout the United States. The purpose. The overall purpose of the organization was to provide support and promote the issue and the effect of the health and safety, welfare, quality of the life of the railroads and their families, to promote the higher education with the family for the full member, to give the assistance to the widowers, sisters, brothers when needed, especially during the times of duress, the rendering assistance whenever needed to the further out of the mission. Article 3, Officer and Election. The officers of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary shall be the National President, National First Vice President, National Secretary, National Treasurer, National Second Vice President, National Legislative Representative, National Third Vice President, National Chaplain, Alternate National Secretary, Alternate National Treasurer, and immediate past National President. Section 2, National Officers shall be elected with duly elected delegates at the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary Convention. Article 4, meeting. Section 1, the meeting of the Brotherhood of Engineering and Trainmen Auxiliary may be held in such a place at such time as designated with the Brotherhood of Engineering and Trainmen for holding the community convention and conveying on such days that such days that the national president may direct and funds, but available if the funds are not available, ballots for the election national officers must be cast by mail. Section 2, special meetings may be called at any time with the national president with the consent of the majority of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary national officers. Article 5, Charters. Charters for the purposes of organizing local auxiliaries in the state and any state in the United States shall be granted with the national president when petitioned according to the Brotherhood of Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary Bylaws, National Bylaws, Article 6, Section 1. Article 5, Article 6, Fund. The funds of the Brotherhood of Engineering Trainmen shall consist of as known as the General Fund, Convention, Delegated Scholarship, and Care and Assistance Program. Article 7, Amendment. The Constitution may amend the two-thirds vote of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary Convention, provided that the previous notice of the amendment was distributed to all local auxiliaries members at large at least 30 days prior to the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary Convention by referendum voted for all full members. All right, Brotherhood Auxiliary National Bylaws, Article 1, Organization. Governing body. The national organization governing the body of the organization consists of one delegate or a proxy from each of the qualified auxiliary regular representative of the members at large and national officers. Section 2, Member Representation. If effected with the following manner, each of the auxiliaries shall elect for the December of the year preceding the convention one delegate and one alternate, one of those whom shall, if the auxiliary is considered qualified, the members at large, and each region shall select one of the representative, one alternate prior to the convention, one of whom shall represent the region and delegated with the governor or local auxiliary bylaws. Article 9, the group shall elect the national officers. Section 3, General Revisions on Provision. The National Auxiliary A have a seal which shall be affixed by the instrument issued by under its authority, have a charter and a wholly liable president while in session with the legal transaction business, maintain headquarters whenever shall be the home of the national president. Maintain headquarters when there shall be a home of the national president. Elect officers each of the session with the national auxiliary as provided within the Constitution, Article 3, Section 2 of the National Bylaws, Article 3, Section 2 and 3. Amendments of the Constitution bylaws are provided with the Constitution, Article 7 of the National Bylaws, Article 9 or 12. Review all the petitions of financial assistance granted by the Executive Council between the session. Authorize approval of the method of conducting auxiliary meetings, and revisions of the method shall be considered at each national auxiliary meeting, and to transact all business, including election officers, before the general session has concluded. Section 4, Term of the National Auxiliary. A member of the National Auxiliary shall continue as such and subject to the call of the National President to the Assembly at the time during intervening between the general session of the National Auxiliary, but which, when the terms has expired, the members shall cease. They shall not assemble again with the National Auxiliary unless they are re-elected to serve the next general session. The provision shall not be prevent the officers of the National Auxiliary from taking seat for the next general session. Section 5, Request for referendum vote. An auxiliary eligible for the delegate may make the form of the request for the national president for a referendum on a vote on an official matter needing time and action in the National Bylaws, Article 12, Section 2. Article 2, Duties and Compensation for the National Officers. Section 1. Duty of the National President. The National President shall establish the headquarters of the National Auxiliary wherever the may, by his or her place of the residence place, preside all the sessions of the National Auxiliary, since the opening day of the all session of the National Auxiliary. C. D. Assignment of the proxy with among the delegates, auxiliary member of the auxiliary, and eligible and unable to delegate, like delegate governed by the National Bars in Article 4. Appoint committees from among the members of the National Auxiliary. 5. Receive Congress a resolution to be acted upon the general session of the National Auxiliary at least 60 days before the opening date, referring them to the proper committee. She having the power to call the special session at any time during his or her official term for the consent of the majority of the national officers. Submit each of the general session with a message setting forth the state of the organization, which may include the legislation that may be deemed necessary for the best interest of the organization. A review of grants under the care and assistance program, review on the scholarship fund, fill vacancies, national offices otherwise provided, but subject to the consent with the majority executive council. The appointments may be a member of the auxiliary. J. Call the annual meeting of the executive council, act as the chairperson. And K. Hold the informational session of regional meetings such where possible. L. Grant and sign charters. M. Appoint members to serve the special representation on the behalf of the National Auxiliary when deemed necessary or beneficial for the good of the organization. N. Giving the council advice for the auxiliary that do not have enough members to hold the state meetings. Upon proper request for the auxiliary and grant special dispositions. PvP, when the consent of the executive council order money paid on the claims received for the financial assistance ordered national officers paid for the expense incurred while the official business are sending copies to be sent with a copy of the resolution auxiliary prior to the opening of the national auxiliary. 7. Be responsible for ensuring the auxiliary has an article in the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainman Auxiliary section of the Locomotive Engineering Trainman News or Locomotive Engineering Trainman Journal by writing an article with the assignment of the writing of the article to the officers and the members. 2. The representative of the National Auxiliary, all regional conventions that designate the Executive Council members in his or her stead, be a member of the Executive Council, provide with the annual report of the activity on behalf of the National Auxiliary between the annual meetings, and V. Assume the office immediately upon the installation of the national officers to deliver the successful all property belonging with the National Auxiliary within 30 days after the election. W. Have an access to email and agree to check their email on a frequent basis. Section 2. Duties of the National First Vice President. The National First Vice President, acting as presiding officer during the meeting of the National Auxiliary upon the request of the absence of the National President, in the case of the vacancy of the office of the National President, assume the immediately duty of the office and serve until the successor is elected. The National Second and Third Vice President shall be advanced in order. Responsible in the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainman Auxiliary newsletter, be able to a member of the Executive Council provide with the annual report of the activity on behalf of the National Auxiliary between the annual meeting. E-care special meetings of the consent of the remaining member of the Executive Council when the National President is unable to act. Representative of the National Auxiliary of the travel is requested to give the report of activity and interest of the National Auxiliary at its general session. H. Serve as a liaison with the jurisprudence by law and committee during the National Auxiliary Convention. I. A National Outreach Coordinator for the Auxiliary and work close with the National President and National Local Officer in matter of the recruiting of the membership of the follow-up. Acting as a mobilization program chair, acting as contacts are made with the others in the various meetings and conventions. Otherwise, National First Vice President shall advise the said contact and type of the information distributed, and National First Vice President shall follow up with the said with the contact in a timely fashion, question other information needed by the contact. L. Require regular contact existing auxiliary for the question of the address the issue that may arise and stay in contact with existing auxiliaries. And promote the good organization with the traveling or organized auxiliaries to represent the National Auxiliary request. And end, they provide with the least of the quarterly written report of the National President outlining the activities and information pertaining to the membership of organization, recruiting, the denoting the staff of the existing auxiliary contacts, attending at least one regional convention each every year, determined by the assignment of the annual Executive Council meeting with the expense with the required for the attendance reimbursed for the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainman Auxiliary. P. Maintain files pertaining to the job of the National First Vice President and National Outreach Coordinator, deliver the successor all property belonging to the National Auxiliary within 30 days after the election. Assume the office immediately upon installation. The national officers are prepared and submit to the National President at least one article per year for submission into the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering National Division publications or membership of the publications. Have an access email to agree to check the email on a frequent basis unless the National President or National Secretary has been notified on his or her absence. 3. Duty of the National Secretary. The National Secretary, A, shall keep the true record of the proceeding of the session of the National Auxiliary and employ with the stenographer to record the minutes. B, a correct list of the auxiliary and their members. All members are at large. B, the member of the Executive Council provide for the annual report of the activities on behalf of the National Auxiliary between the annual meetings. D, prepare meetings following every Executive Council meeting forward with a copy to each council member within 40 days of the following conclusion of the meeting. E, receive all the money with the using the National Auxiliary given the receive at the same time and remit with the National Treasurer at least one each of the month. Has sent a request for the payment of the National Treasurer when authorized by the National Presidency. Cause the auxiliary books recorded by the audit of the Finance Committee for every 4 years of the National Auxiliary Convention, except in the event of changing the officer, in which case the audit will require at the time of the change of the audit, but it shall be performed in conjunction with the audit books and the record by the National Treasurer. 8. Prepare the quarterly and article with the Brotherhood of Engineering Trainment Auxiliary newsletter. I received the article Auxiliary Scholarship application April 1st on every year with the determined eligibility application copy of eligible applicants mail packet with the application Executive Council prior to the annual Executive Council meeting to notify that scholarship applicants may by mail outcome with a review of their application with the Executive Council. J. In January, prepare the scholarship information article for the local of engineering trainment news and website following the scholarship awarding. They prepare the article announcing receipt of the recipients for the scholarship award with the local of engineering trainment news as requested Brotherhood of Local of Engineering Trainment. Case and credential of the delegate with the proxy regional representative of the following receive the notification election with the assignment, send the credential of the properly signed with the national president, the national secretary, and all other national officers at the time credentials signed with the delegates, proxies, and regional representatives. M. Compile with the list of delegates sent to the national president at least for the 90 days prior to the general session of the National Auxiliary. And notify the national president, the president, secretary of any of the auxiliary when the national dues have been received in March 1st. Notify the national president at the end of the 30-day grace period that the auxiliary whose national dues have been received the application with the charter signed the forward same with the grant to the auxiliary. Q. Verify the validity of sponsor membership for all member at large applications. R. We consorting with all the records of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment Auxiliary. As representing the National Auxiliary travels when requested to do so. T. Maintain a duplicate set of the books on a computer utilizing the program designated with the National Auxiliary. Maintain a book on those books as regular basis. U. Attend at least one regional convention every year determined by the assignment of the annual Executive Council meeting with the expense of required attendance reimbursed by the Brotherhood of the Locomotive Engineering Trainment Auxiliary. V. Give the report of the activity and interest National Auxiliary in its general session. W. When it serves as liaison credential committee during the National Auxiliary Convention. X. Deliver the successor of all books and paper software programs, money, and other property belonging with the National Auxiliary no later than 60 days after the election. Y. Prepare and submit the national president at least one article per year of the submission, Brotherhood, Local Engineering Training, National Division publication on one membership of the member publication. Z. Has access to email and agree to check the email on a frequent basis unless the national president has been notified on his or her absence. Section 4. Duty of the National Treasurer. The National Treasurer shall receive all the money with the National Secretary and maintain the duplicate with a set of the books, computerizing, utilizing the program designated with the National Auxiliary, maintain the backup of those books on a regular basis, issue the check for the cover of all expenditures upon the authorization of the National President signed by the National Secretary. C. Be a member of the Executive Council, provide with the report of the annual Executive Council meeting with the concern of the investment funds, accumulation, and interest, the general condition of the Treasury, including the budgetary shortfall of the detailed revenue expense for the accounting balance for the all accounts funded as the auxiliary year end of March 31st. D. Give the report activity for the interest of the National Auxiliary at each of the general session. Provide a national president monthly with the treasurer reporting setting for the monthly revenues expense for the accounting balance of the fund balances. Said that the statement shall be due by the national president no later than the 10th day of the following end of the previous month. F. Cause auxiliary books records of the audit with the finding of the committee with every 4 years for the National Auxiliary Convention, except in the event of the change of the officer, in which case the audit will be required at the time of the change. The audit will be conducted shall be performed in conjunction with the audit of the books recorded by the National Secretary. Between the official audits and the auditing committee should be appointed with the National President may be made with the Executive Council's members to compare the books from the record of the National Secretary of the National Treasury to determine the inconsistency exists. The inconsistencies are found with the National President approval of the Executive Council may call for interim audit. G. Keep a record of all security and interest paid. H. Attend at least one regional convention every year with determined by the assignment of the annual with the Executive Council meeting for the expense required for the attendance reimbursed with the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment. Deliver the successor of all books and paper software programs money with the property belonging to the National Auxiliary not later than 60 days after the election. J. Prepare and submit the National President at least one article per year submission for the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Training Public National Division publications and other membership of the publications. K. Serve as the liaison financial committee during the National Auxiliary Convention. L. Represent the National Auxiliary travel requested to do so. M. Have the access of the emails agree to check for the email on a frequent basis unless the National President and National Secretary has notified on his or her absence. Section 5, duty of the National Second Vice President, National Legislative Branch, National Legislative Representative. The National Second Vice President or National Legislative Representative shall see the office of the National First Vice President indicate the vacancy, be a member of the Executive Council, provide the annual report of the activities on behalf of the National Auxiliary between the annual meetings. C, act as presiding officer during the meeting of the Auxiliary upon the request of the absence of the National President, National First Vice President. D, the assignment of the National President and in any work of the rep requested. E, promote the good organization, traveling organizing auxiliary to represent the National Auxiliary as requested. F. Give the report of activities for the National Auxiliary in the General Session. Serve the liaison legislative committee during the National Auxiliary Convention. Act with the National Legislative Representative before the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment Auxiliary. While close with the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment National Legislative Representative. Prepare a written report National President outlining the activity accomplishment when acting on the behalf of the Auxiliary Legislative Branch in Washington and elsewhere outside of the normal course of the business. J. Keep the membership divided with the pending legislation in a timely manner through the correspondence with the website, email, and phone. Attend at least one regional convention every year, but determined by the assignment of the annual Executive Council meeting with the expense of the required attendance for reimbursed for the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary. Alright, so I had a phone call. As active national legislative of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Court, closely with the Brotherhood of National Legislative Representative, I provide a written report for the National President outlining activities accomplishment when acting on behalf of the auxiliary legislative business with Washington, D.C. elsewhere outside of the normal course of the business. J. Keep the membership divided with the pending legislation in a timely manner through the correspondence website, email, and phone. K. Attend at least one regional convention every year, but determine the assignment of the annual Executive Council meeting with the expense of the required attendance with the reimbursement of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment Auxiliary. L. Maintain files pertaining to the job of the National Second Vice President and National Legislative Representative and deliver the successor of all files and books postage property belonging to the National Auxiliary no later than 30 days after the election, and assume the office immediately upon installation of national officers, and prepare to submit to the National President at least one article per year of the submission, and Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment of the National Division publication and other membership of the publication, and have access for the email, agree to check the email on a frequent basis unless the National President and National Secretary has been notified on his or her absence. Section C. Duty of the National Third Vice President. The National Third Vice President exceeds the National Office of the National Second Vice President in case of the vacancy. The acting President office upon the request and absence of the National President, First Vice President, and Second Vice President, and National Legislative Representative. Assist the National President in any of the work of the request to represent the National Auxiliary travel that is requested to do so. Give the report of the activities and interest of the National Auxiliary at its general session. Act as an assist the National Legislative Representative of the acting National Legislative Representative upon the request of the absence of the National Second Vice President, National Legislative Representative. Maintain files pertaining to the job Assistant National Legislative Representative to deliver the success for all files, books, stamp postage, and property belonging to the National Auxiliary no later than 30 days after the election. Assume the office immediately upon installation of the national officers. J. Prepare the submit with the National President with at least one article per year of the submission for the Local Engineering National Trainment publication and other membership within publications. Having access to email and agree to check the email on a frequent basis, use the National President and National Secretary has been notified on his or her absence. 7. Duty of the National Chaplain. The National Chaplain shall assist the National President in any with work requested to represent the National Auxiliary and travel as requested to do so, preside at the opening of the General Session of the National Auxiliary, and introduce the national officers, give the report of activity and interest of the National Auxiliary at the General Session. E. Serve as liaison officer, memorial committee. F. Prepare to submit with the National President with at least one article per year submission of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment National Division publication or other membership of the publication. Have access to email and agree with the check of the email on a frequent basis unless the National President and National Secretary has been notified in his or her absence. Section 8. Duties of alternate national secretary. The alternate national secretary shall assist the national president in any of the work requested to represent the national auxiliary and travel is requested to do so. Fill a temporary and permanent vacancy of the national secretary. Should the office of the alternate national secretary become vacant, the office of it shall be filled provided with the national bylaws, Article 3 of Section 4. So you submit the written report of activities and interest of the national auxiliary national president at least 30 days prior to the general session. Prepare to submit the national president at least one article per year of the submission, Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Division publications and other membership publications. Having access to email, agree to check the email on a frequent basis unless the national president, national secretary has been notified on his or her absence. Section 9. Duties of alternate national treasurer. Alternate national treasurer assists the national president in any work requested. Represent the national auxiliary travel is requested to do so. Fill the temporary and permanent vacancy. The national treasurer should offer the alternate national treasurer become vacant. The office shall be filled provided with the national bylaws, Article 3 of Section 4. Submit the written report activity and interest of the national auxiliary national president at least 30 days prior to the general session. E. Prepare to submit with the national president at least 1 year of the article per year of the submission for the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainmen National Division publication or other membership publication to have access to email and agree to check the email on a frequent basis unless the national president, national secretary has notified on his or her absence. Duty of the past national president, the immediate past national president, assist the national president in any work requested represented with the national auxiliary as requested with the national president. Submit the written report activity and interest of the national auxiliary to the national president at least 30 days prior to the general session to have access to immediate email and agree to check the email on a frequent basis. Section 11. The compensation. The national office of the president, first vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and second vice president, national legislative representative shall receive monthly compensation in the amounts determined by the national auxiliary as follows: President $300, first vice president $250, secretary $250, treasurer $250, second vice president national legislative representative $250. Part B. Executive Council. Compensation. Council meetings should be paid with a salary equal to the current delegated rate of the paid of the time of the executive session. Transportation reimbursement. The council members shall be reimbursed for the transportation expense to and from the executive council meeting. Car rental reimbursement must be pre-approved by the national president. 3. Per diem. Council members should be reimbursed for the per diem expenses consisting of the lodging and meal, with the incidental expenses and prevailing its rate established by the General Service Administration. In the event of the lodging exceeds the rate established by the General Service Administration, the members reimbursed for the actual lodging expense, including applicable taxes, but the rate of the meals and incidental expenses will remain the published rate. The per diem will be paid for the number of the necessary lodging nights. The member meals and incidental expenses will be paid automatically, actually meeting the days plus 2 day travel days. The national president may order payment except for the uncompensated national officer member when the official business with the national auxiliary is required to authorize the national president. All national officers shall have the expense for the pay with the general fund, while the intent of the general session of the national auxiliary, the national officers shall be compensated the same manner of the amount of the delegates' national convention, with all exemption being preceding the days of the national necessary to conventions as directed by the national president as previous authorization, contrary with either the previous administration, general proceedings, executive council meetings, or other meetings shall be deemed voided. All salaried national officers employed with auxiliary are placed under the benefits of Social Security laws currently in effect, in which may hereby and be enacted. Article 3. Election in the term of the office. Section 1. National officer President, first vice president, secretary, and second vice president, national legislative representative, third vice president, chaplain, alternate secretary, alternate treasurer shall be elected with the general session of the national auxiliary. Exclude the position of the national secretary, national treasurer, national officer shall be eligible to serve at the same elective office in more than 2 years, the 4-year terms, or 8-year term. National secretary, national treasurer shall be elected to serve the 2 consecutive to 4-year terms, or 8 years. 2. Section nominations for national officers shall be made with the second of the convention for the floor delegated proxy of the national auxiliary. Each delegate of the proxy nominated for the candidate shall be allowed 3 minutes to speak on the behalf of the candidate. Candidates will be allowed an additional 3 minutes to speak on their own behalf regarding the qualification if they so desire. Section 3. Elections shall be made in ballot majority voting election. Electing. Section 4. Vacancy. All vacancies national officers no otherwise provided shall be filled with the appointment of the national president with consistent with the executive council. The appointment shall serve at the next meeting. The national auxiliary with the vacancy shall be filed with an election. A member of the auxiliary meetings are large and may be chosen not necessary that he or she delegate. Section 5. Qualifications of the office. The nominee for any of the offices being a member of the National Auxiliary have been a member at least 2 years and have been available to travel on behalf of the National Auxiliary in addition to having any travel required with a particular office to reside with the Continental site in the United States. Be nominated with the runoff of the office of national president. With the candidate must be either be a member of at least 4 years, but they have served at least 1 year full term with the elected officer, the executive council, president, first vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and second vice president, national legislative representative. Nominated with the office of the national secretary, alternate national secretary. The member must be knowledgeable and experienced with the office procedure and skills, be able to operate, learn computer-based bookkeeping programs. To be nominated for the office of National Treasurer, alternative to National Treasurer membership that must be qualified in accounting with the knowledge and experience in investment management and be able to operate within learn computer-based bookkeeping programs. To be nominated for the office of National Representative, the National Assistant National Legislative Representative members that have been good writing skills and orders. It must be demanded with the writing of the Congress, distributing information members of the quarterly legislative update, and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Training and Auxiliary News. All national officers must be accessed to the emails, agree to check with the email on the frequent basis using the National President and National Secretary has been notified of his or her absence. Article 4, Representation. Section 1, Delegates. Each existing auxiliary of the membership of at least 8 members of the good standing of the National Auxiliary declared for the auxiliary calendar each year ending with December 34th, preceding the convention when considered with the qualified intended entitled to the seat of delegate each of the session of the National Auxiliary Convention. Existing auxiliary has been not submitted with the annual report due to the National Auxiliary March 31st. The National Auxiliary Convention year will not be entitled to seat a delegate, nor shall a proxy be assigned to the representative of the auxiliary and auxiliary that fails to meet the membership requirement needs of the qualification, but is otherwise good and standing with the National Auxiliary is entitled to represented by the proxy appointed by the National President from the pool of the current delegates. Each of the auxiliary organized during the year of the National Auxiliary Convention prior to 90 days in advance of the said convention. The meeting of the membership of the requirement will be entitled to receive the delegate provided by the organizational paperwork, any associated fees having been forwarded to the National Secretary in order, and no member of the firm, any of the auxiliary is able to attend. Then the National President may be assigned the member of an elected delegate from another auxiliary to serve as the proxy for that auxiliary, while the exemption of the national officers who are members of the executive council. The national officer may also serve as the elected delegate for the local auxiliary. If the circumstances arise to prevent delegates, proxies attending for the National Auxiliary Convention, no change can be made with the representative less than 30 days prior to the convention. In case of emergency, suspension may be granted with the National President. See, proxies appointed by the National President to represent the auxiliary shall have the responsibility, good faith efforts for the contact of either the President and Executive Committee officer of the auxiliary regarding the representation of the auxiliary behalf of the National Auxiliary Convention. Proxy delegates shall also provide the report of the auxiliary has been appointed with the representative either verbally or written within 60 days following the close of the general session. Each member of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen Auxiliary must be convention delegated the funds delegated to the National Auxiliary annually, thereby setting the expense of the fund with the delegates with the rate with the determined of the general session of the National Auxiliary. Section 2, expense reimbursement. Delegates and national officers will be reimbursed with expense of this foul. The transportation cost delegates will be reimbursed with the actual travel expenses will receive up to a maximum of $600. Rental cars expense will not be reimbursed on allowance for the taxis to be added in from the airport, and a hotel will provide with the basis estimated prevailing rate of the convention city. The per diem delegates and officers will be reimbursed per diem expense for the consisting of the lodging and meals. Incidental expenses. The lodging will be reimbursed for the actual expenses incurred, including the applicable tax meals and incidental expenses will be reimbursed with the current rate established with the government as service administrative for the convention of the city. Per diem will be paid with the number of the necessary lodging nights. Officers and delegates who request the national president to present with more days than the regular convention will be compensated with either additional per diem. Or execution for lodging reimbursement of the auxiliary delegated to him with the National Auxiliary Convention share of the room with another delegate with the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment membership of the reimbursed with the lower lodging. Lodging will be reimbursed as follows. 1. If the auxiliary delegate chooses to share a room with another auxiliary delegate, he or she will be reimbursed with the room rate, including the applicable taxes and fees divided with the equal between each of the delegate. If an auxiliary delegate sharing a room with the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen, a member who is reimbursed with lodging expenses by the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen, the National Division, the auxiliary delegate presence for is required for more than days than are reimbursed by the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineering Trainmen, the auxiliary delegated with entitled with the room of the reimbursement for those extra days, the national officer who are required to do additional the day for the assigned with the committee of the meeting prior to the general session of the National Auxiliary Convention. C. Delegate. With the delegates will be made with the service of the National Convention paid for the time work with the rate of the pay to be set with the Executive Council, the Executive Executive Council will exercise due diligence based on the current of the financial status of the auxiliary, setting of the delegates' rate of the pay. Change of the rate of the pay will not be considered with the increase of the National Auxiliary Convention. Section 3. Member representation. Each qualified auxiliary shall elect with the delegate alternate representative of the auxiliary member of the interest of the National Auxiliary Convention. Member of the league at large will act as delegate with the alternate from their of the region. Section 4. Voting. The national officer may have one vote, except for the national president, with the vote only with the case of a tie. Each of the delegates shall be entitled to one vote for each of the auxiliary region, but the representative shall represent no more than 2 auxiliaries. Section 5. Credentials. The delegate of the proxy must be presented with the credentials properly signed and the credentials committee to receive identification supplies and furnished by the delegates. Section 6. Special meetings. In case of special session, the national auxiliary is called an auxiliary that meets if they have been organized with the subsequent to the last session from the national auxiliary in good standing at any time. At the time shall be entitled to the delegate proxy who will have been elected at the time of the organization. Article 5. Committees and duties. Article 5. Standing committees. The following standing committees will be appointed during the general session of the National Auxiliary: Credential, Financial, Jurisprudential, Bylaws, Legislation, Memorial Service, Parliamentary Law. All committees will be discharged prior to the closing of the general session. Section duty of the committee. The credential committees shall report the national officers, delegate, alternative proxy representative of the credential committee will also be responsible for the assisting national secretary and checking the credentials, membership, card of the delegates and visitors, respectively, and monitoring requests for membership. Wishing to obtain the member permission to leave the meetings. Credential of the committee will also be responsible for reporting the condition of the 6 delegates, but the national secretary will also serve the liaison office of the Credentials Committee. The Financing Committee. It shall be the duty of the Financial Committee to report what they, in their judgment and opinion, to take into consideration current financial status of the National Auxiliary believe with the right and due of the National Officer of the Service, also to take into consideration opposition resolution, factoring revenues that may be offered to recommended the measure, in their opinion will be the financial benefit of the National Auxiliary. The National Treasurer will serve the liaison office of the Financial Committee. Jurisprudential and bylaw. Jurisprudence and bylaw committee shall carefully examine all the proposition of this revised the change of the amendment of the constitutional bylaw of the chairperson of the committee shall make the report with the following: the consideration all representation by the delegation the number of the read and carried a loss covered withdrawal national first vice president shall be the liaison office of the jurisprudential and bylaw committee. The legislative it shall be due to the legislative committee to report legislative is issued with the interest to make the recommendation regarding the brotherhood of local engineering trainment auxiliary position with the other views of those views also taken into consideration proposition resolution pertaining to the legislative issue that may be offered by the national legislative representative will serve the liaison office of the legislative committee. Memorial. It should be due to the memorial committee to prepare and conduct the service of the memorial of the deceased member of the national chaplain will serve the liaison officer of the national memorial committee. Parliamentary law. It should be due to the parliamentary law to determine the legality of the proceedings. Article 6. Charters. Section 1. Granting charters. Charters are for the organizing auxiliaries in any state of the United States shall be granted with the national president and properly petitioned such as the local auxiliary bylaws. Article 2. Section 2. Section 2. Surrendering charters. Charters may be voluntarily surrendered with the vote of the auxiliary suspended by the national president, revoked in action of the National Auxiliary Executive Council, willful violation of the Constitution bylaws. Section 3. Duplicate charters. In case the charter is lost and destroyed, or the reissued charter shall bear the original date of the issue and well the present date of the name of the issuing national officers as well as the signature of the president, the national officers. Name of the charter membership is available. The word duplicate and printed on the charter. Article 7. Dues and funds of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainment Auxiliary. How maintain. Section 1. Due. The National Auxiliary does error payable to the National Auxiliary in general with the year following the collection of those due with each of the members whose names appear with the books of the auxiliaries in January 1st. All who granted the membership between the date and the number and date and November 15th. The I due the collection of the January year 2010 payable to the submission annual report of 2010 submitted with the January 2011 dues to each of the member amounts set as forth as follows. The auxiliary members are $50 per year. Retirees over 60 and widows and widows $25. Annual report should be complete with the forward national security along with the applicable amount together with the name, the address, the phone number, the email address, and all members no later than March 1st of each video. The auxiliary form of each of the after the January 1st that should be forwarded to the national secretary within 30 days of the organization. Immediately copy the signed charter form applicable to fees, name, address, phone number, the email address as of all members. The application for each of the fees members of the joined during the year shall be sent to the national security within 30 days of the accepting membership exemption. A member with 60 years of the continuous membership is exempt for the national dues, the member of the large shall pay the national dues annually payable upon receipt of the notice of the national secretary due for the members at large are in the amounts set forth as below. Active members of the member to the large $55 per year. Retirees over 60 windows and warriors $3 per year. Section 2. Official national auxiliary shall be begin with the April 1st and March 31st. Section auxiliary funds. The fund of the Brotherhood Local Med Engineering shall consist of the known as General Fund and Convention Delegated Fund, Scholarship Fund for the care of the assistance program, General Fund expense for the national auxiliary paid with the General Fund maintained with the money for monies received with the national duties of the charter fee with the investment interest and investments funding rates for authorized duty of the names recognized with such executive council. B. The convention and the delegated fund of the convention. The delegated fund shall be used to pay the expense for the national auxiliary wherever held, maintained with the assessment of the auxiliary and due to pay for all members. C. The scholarship fund shall be paid with all the awarding scholarship of the funds maintained with the dues and paid with all the members. Memorial special good is funding efforts of including the conducting of the regional convention for them to other voluntary contributions. The funds should be administered for the executive council. D. Care of an assistance program. The care and assistance program shall be used to give the financial assistance to the program of the orphan children of the children members in an emergency situation, maintain the dues paid by all members and special gifts. Section 4. Rules of the scholarship program. The recipient benefits the sum of the other of the Brotherhood Local Med Engineering Trainman and Brotherhood Local Med Engineering Trainman member living or deceased within living or deceased with each of them must be member at least 1 year. Exempt the children unmarried of the Brotherhood Local Med Engineering Trainman member who is an auxiliary associated member of the associated member at large who is an auxiliary associate member at large who is complete with the 1 year of the membership requirement will be eligible to submit a scholarship application for the consideration. The scholarship recipient will be chosen based on the academic record of the leadership, the character, and the personal achievement. The scholarship award will be expanded into a single payment issued on August 1st of each year of the scholarship award, but the payment may be joint with the recipient at university, college, and school, higher learning of his choice. The applicant of the scholar may be received with the Brotherhood of Local Med Engineering Training Auxiliary National Secretary by April 1st. In every case, the amount of the awards granted by shall be decided upon by the Executive Council in accordance with the earnings of the scholarship funds. Section 5. Rules and care of the assistant programs, or CAP. All petitions before the auxiliary be handled important business local auxiliary bylaws. Article 13. General rules for 3. Auxiliary must begin each case within the writing be before members after careful consideration submit the national president auxiliary deems necessary to ask the financial assistance of the member and the orphan child of the member of the shall before with written statement with the case the national president. The proper application will be sent to the local auxiliary president, then returned to the national president of the Executive Council will be considered with the care of the resending rendering the decision. The receiving of the care and assistance program benefits of the application must have the auxiliary member between good standing for at least 1 year. A member who makes the application for the auxiliary assistance for supporting his or her child must have the member of the Brotherhood Local Med Engineering Trainman auxiliary when he or she became the widow or widower must be keeping his or her children at home with solely responsible to the support. The petition auxiliary must be agreed with assume the responsibility for the family by the keeping in touch with the order with the known the children receiving the benefits of their allowance. The annual report shall be sent to the national president, the auxiliary secretary, by March 1st. The auxiliary defined the member not using the allowance for supporting the children. An investigating officer will be assigned. The children are eligible to receive allowances until the reaching age of 18. The monthly allowance shall be discontinued for following reasons. Children received with the age limit, the surviving parent remarries, failing to comply with the rules of receiving other means of support, lack of money found in the treasury. See, if the member's need for the financial assistance determined by the Executive Council, hardship of the case for the assistance may be allowed one time in the basement, if the case handled individually ruled upon according to the information provided in every case. In every case, the amount of the benefits granted shall be decided upon the Executive Council in accordance with the earning for the care and assistance program. Article 8. Executive Council. Section 1. Executive Council. The Executive Council of the Brotherhood Local Med Engineering Trainman Auxiliary shall consider the national president who elects the national, just acts as the chairperson, national first vice president, national secretary, national treasurer, national second vice president, national legislative representative. Section 2. Meeting of the Executive Council will meet annually with the call of the national president. With the special meetings may be called the national president whenever necessary. Special meetings may also be held with the regional convention with the quorum and is present without need for the prior notice. The special meetings may also be conducted with the telephone conference and interest expediency and efficiency through the 3 members shall constitute quorum. 3. Section 3. Power and duties. Executive Council shall transact each of such business with the insert of the organization may be required for the general session of the national auxiliary. However, have the power to buy and sell, trade, deal with the stocks and bonds. They engage the service investment management, advisory management, advice, investment auxiliary, and investment auxiliary acts as the broker and dealer with the executive execute transactions provided by the other auxiliary services with respect to the auxiliary delegated to discretionary authority to such manager and advisory. Having the power of the authority to authorize such expenditure for the general fund is necessary to provide with the office machines, the equipment, software, executive council members, and for the purpose of the enhancing of the ability to perform the duties on behalf of the auxiliary, to manage, care, and assist in the program scholarship fund, and appeal for the financial assistance, having the authority to declare the office vacant and of the officer becomes incompetent with illness, otherwise fails to perform duties for the office as set forth in these bylaws. If approved, the appointment is made by the national president to fill the vacancies. Section 9. Articles of State Legislative Representative. Section 1. Appointment. The State Legislative Representative may be appointed by the national president upon the recommendation of the national legislative representative for each of the United States will serve as an at-will officer. The national president will be authorized to declare the office vacant if the state legislative representative fails to perform the duties of the office and are based on the recommendation of the national auxiliary legislative representative. Section 2. The duties of the state legislative representative shall assist the national legislative representative in any work that may be requested to act as the state legislative representative of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainmen, with the state legislative board chairman of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainmen, respective state. Coordinate with the national legislative representative with respective to the auxiliary legislative representative to distribute information regarding the state legislative issues and affected members. Give a report of activities pertaining to the position of the national legislative representative is needed to have access to email and frequent monitoring is sent to the email. Maintain pertaining to the job to deliver successful all files and books and postage for the property belonging to the national auxiliary no later than 30 days after leaving the position. No successor in place for the time of leaving the office of the files property shall be delivered to the national legislative representative. In the Section 3 initiative, the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Training Auxiliary initiative proposed at the state level will not conflict with the Brotherhood of Local Engineering State Legislative Board agenda once receive the prior authorization of the national legislative representative of the national president. Article 10. State meetings. State meetings may be held annually where desired with the chairperson, secretary made elected for the meeting of the conducted with the president, secretary of the host auxiliary. The object of the meeting shall be to recruit a new member to inform the Brotherhood of Local members of the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Auxiliary Program. The national office shall be represented the national auxiliary. The government shall be governed by the national auxiliary bylaws. Article 11, National Auxiliary General Session. Section 1, Order of Business. A call to order the National Chaplain. Presentation position of the colors, pledge of allegiance to the flag led by the National Chaplain. Introduction of the National Office of the National Chaplain. Opening the program, the prayer with the memorial service ceremony by the National Chaplain, and presentation of the gavel of the National President by the National Chaplain. Section 2, National President greeting with the declares the session is open. Read the rules of the governing session of the National Auxiliary, and B, the introduction committee with credential, financial, jurisprudential, bylaws, legislative, memorial, and parliamentary law. Section 3, schedule and procedure with the report, credentials, and committee chairman, chairperson. Report a national officer report and special committee with the report of the standing committee to review the discussion of the voting on the resulting of the petition, rename the Constitution, bylaws, and change the election of the national officer of new business and installation of the officers. Section 4, rules of the National Auxiliary General Session. A resolution affecting the Constitution, bylaws, revenue with the Brotherhood of Local Engineering Trainmen must be sent to the Office of the National Secretary at least 60 days prior to the opening of the Grand General Session of the National Auxiliary, referred to the Property Committee prior to the National Auxiliary General Session. Office of Delegates proxy will receive the copies of all the resolutions. Parts of the delegate packets are required to familiarize themselves with the resolution prior to the first day of the General Session. Resolutions submitted for the first day of the General Session may be read to discuss voted upon with the delegates. Upon the first reading, the resolution submitted during the convention must be given to the National Secretary to read National Auxiliary and referred to the Jurisprudential Committee for the second reading with a subsequent day of the General Session, at which time the action will be taken. Each resolution shall be submitted separately under the respective title of the Constitution, national bylaws governing auxiliary finance, in order to facilitate distribution and proper committee. Each resolution submitted with the consideration prior to the convention shall be read with the discussed and voted on by the National Auxiliary during the first reading of the side of the resolution. Attendance shall be noted for the morning and the afternoon session, each for the day and the day. All delegates must be in their place at the opening and the remaining until the close of the meeting, unless excused by the National President. If there for the delegate to be absent, extend the length of time from the room during the meeting of the delegate must report the National Secretary and the Credentials Committee with the member is the reason of the absence, ensure upon returning the return is noted. All delegations must remain the entire session unless excused by the National President. Alright, all delegates and officers will ensure that any portable communication device and paper, cell phones and smartphones, tablets, and etc. are either turned off or silent mode during the general session. A member wishing the floor must rise, wait for the recognition by the chairman, given his or name the number of his or auxiliary receive the commitment. With two or more members that rise to speak at the same time, the chair shall decide who is entitled to the floor. No member shall interpret it with the speaking except with the call of the order. No member shall make claim with the floor more than twice on the same subject except with the general consent. By general consent, no one shall enter or leave the room while the question is being debated and voted upon. Previous notice in such the national auxiliary should be in the morning into the afternoon. Each of the delegate must be granted journaling proceeding of the previous general session with the national auxiliary and copy of the Constitution and bylaws. J. An auxiliary may instruct the delegate upon any of the manner of the business except with the election and allowance of the national office. The stenographer recorded the minutes of the general session of the national auxiliary should be compensated with the service performed. Held the convention shall not exceed 1 week with the following schedule with the working hours as set with the national president and national office delegates with the proxy participation. The national auxiliary convention shall note the favoritism or active campaign from a brotherhood local of engineering trained candidate for national office. The only exemption would be in the case of the spouse of the brotherhood local engineering trainman candidate. And the effective date of the change of the Constitution bylaws representatives shall be 60 days of the following general session in which they are adopted. Revised Constitution bylaws should be distributed to the President and Secretary of each of the auxiliary within the 90 days following the end of the National Auxiliary Convention in which they are adopted. The Constitution bylaws will be made available to local auxiliary members at large of the local auxiliary website. Article 12, Amendment. Section 1, General Session of the Bylaws will be amended to the General Session of the National Auxiliary with a two-thirds vote provided the proposed amendment to receive the National Secretary at least 60 days prior to the opening of the General Session. National Auxiliary copy sent with the delegates resolution provided with the previous notice that has been given. Section 2, the referendum vote of the bylaws may be amended with the referendum vote with the membership of the formal request has been made with the National President by the Auxiliary as qualified as eligible for a delegate at the time the request is made. The referendum vote must be adopted within two-thirds of the majority of the membership of the motion and be adopted. The National President with a consistent with the majority executive council authorized the national secretary of the referendum panel, the auxiliary secretaries, members of the large ballots that shall be distributed. Auxiliary members, secretary gather return of the national secretary within 30 days. Members of the large will return of the ballots and the national secretary within 30 days. And the announcement of the result of the vote shall be made with the national president. Article 13, Parliamentary Authority. Parliamentary authority shall be Robert's Rules of Order revised for all matters not covered by the Constitution bylaws. Parliamentary helps motions. 1. All business must be done with the motions and voted on with the majority allowing the ruling. 2. All motions must be seconded and repeated by the chairman before it is debated. Any member having the motion with withdrawal and consent with a second before it is debated, but not after with the consent of the auxiliary, a motion may be amended to take proceeding with noting the question which is the proposed in the amendment of the yield to the privilege and incidental subsidiary questions existing and indefinitely postponed. It can be amended itself with amendments if the amendment cannot be amended. 9. When two or more of the members shall arrive to speak at the same time, the presiding officer shall decide whether the entitled to the floor. No member shall speak with twice, no longer than 5 minutes each time of the question, without consistent auxiliary, which shall be granted with the refused without debate with the members of speaking. When one shall be interpreted except for the purpose of the calling to speak to the order of the asking the presiding officer to explain the call for the previous question. A member granted with the permission to explain with shall have only the right to explain with the actual misunderstanding of the language shall be prohibited from going into debate with the meritorious question. 7. If the President desires the debate on any of the motion, he shall request the Vice President to fill with the chair while the motion is debated. If the vote is taken in the voting of the motion, both sides of the question must be called for, and the National President shall see all of the vote. The member not deciding the vote at the end of the question may be executed with the question settled. When a member speaks or offers a motion, he shall rise in his or her place respectively address the President. He shall confine his or herself to the question under the consideration of votable personality unbecoming language. Taking the vote. Before taking the vote, the President shall ask the auxiliary ready for the question, and if no one asks and no one rises to speak, auxiliary ready for the question. When the presiding officer called for the vote, no further debate in the mark shall be permitted unless the mistake has been made. In case the mistake shall be rectified, but the voting shall then be resumed. When the decision made with the question is doubted, the presiding officer shall direct the vice president with the count of the votes report the same. The ayes and the nays upon the question before the auxiliary may be called by any two members upon the assistant majority of the members present, when they shall be taken, they may be called for any time before the preemptory decision of the vote of the chair. A member shall vote unless executed with the majority of the member of the present. Reconsiderization and appeal. The question for the considerization at the time during the session of the first regular held thereafter, and the motion for the considerization being one is made, but the decide of the negative shall not be renewed before the next regular session. 14. A motion for the reconsiderization must be made and seconded by the members who have the vote in the majority. No question shall be reconsidered more than once, nor shall they revote reconsidered be reconsidered. To reconsider any resolution, except for the decision which has officially passed out of the auxiliary, shall not be in order. A motion to reconsider the question have been granted by the vote with the majority of all the members present, with the original question with the committee determined before the body, and the body matter will be left to the auxiliary determined. 16. A motion for the repeal of the reciting of the resolution shall be made with the writing of the announcement for the previous general session before the action but shall be taken on the same. That shall only be in order when motion to reconsider with no longer available 2/3 of the vote is necessary to resign. If any of the members shall personally aggrieved by the decision of the chair, an appeal for the decision may be made. With an appeal to taken the decision, presiding officer shall put a question as follows: shall the decision of the chair stand as the judgment of the auxiliary? Auxiliary cannot undo an action previously by previous meeting by changing or erasing the records. The matter is the project subject of the reconsiderization may be brought forth at the next general meeting that is recorded afterwards. Motion to close. A motion to close shall always be in order except the first when the members of the possession of the floor, and second with the ayes, with the nays of the being called, with the third and when the members are voting for it, when the close with the last presenting the motion, the fifth when it is being decided with the previous question to be taken. Motion to close cannot be amended. The motion to close the given the time the members is only to debate. Motion to close is not necessary for the regular give the meetings with the regular order of the business that has been followed. Point of order. For the member to speaking unaccounted for the member to encounter the unaccounted report to be said, one impeach of the motive of the member of the act of personal disrespect or pass between the member and the chair with the members of speaking shall be deemed the violation of order may incur in censure by the presiding officer. Any conservation, whispering, otherwise which is calculated distributed with the member while speaking and hindering the transaction of the business shall be deemed the violation of order. When a member is called to order, he or she shall keep his or her seat until the point is determined. Any participation whose shall persist in interrupting the meeting shall be dealt with at once, and the matter be laid over the auxiliary may determine. Alright, reports. The reading of the report properly represents the auxiliary in a motion, and they receive the necessary when only the action is required. The majority of the report is filed with the report from the general minority committee with the former after the being read, but it shall be laid upon the table, and later the representative with the afterwards motion either be considered. President pro term, the president and vice president are both absent. It will be the duty of the secretary to call the meeting to order. The meetings attending will designate the member to preside. The presiding meeting which must be seconded and voted upon. The meeting that shall be open in the regular form if these three officers are absent and member of the president with the call to order proceed as above. Installation of the new national officers. The immediate past president will ask the new elected national officer to raise the right hand and repeat after me in the following the oath. I do solemnly promise that the presence of those members to perform the best of my ability to duties for the office which I have been elected. I will obey the Constitution by law of the auxiliary by the decision of the national auxiliary. I deliver her to my successor and the officer and all the books records belonging to the office. I further promise to help in any way that I can promote the protect auxiliary and its members the best in ability and always keep the auxiliary mission and proper purpose in mind. The immediate past president extended the hand of the friendship presidents, each of the officers with the pink carnation optional name. Newly installed officers are then seated with the immediately past president raps the gavel and announces the new officer as are duly installed. And since she or he then hands the gavel to the new national president. All right, Blether, local engineering trainman, auxiliary, local auxiliary bylaws, Article 1.